They're in the loop. I'm the only one out of the loop, it would seem. And if we check my point total here, I don't need to walk to the front because I know what it is. It's a big old goose egg, gang. It's a fat 0. Hello, a little late addition to the numerical symbol chart brought to us from our friends in Arabia. A little bit of trivia that I happen to know about the history of numbers. You would think in a game where there were only 2 possible correct choices that one would stumble into the right answer every so often, wouldn't you? In fact, the probability of never guessing right in the full game is a statistical wonder. And yet, here we are. Icarus flying too close to the sun. But it seems Daedalus, our little master crafter over here, had some wax wings of his own, didn't he? Wanted to see his sun fall from the sky. Oh, how close to the sun he flew. Well, I'm not having it.
What is the rule of the game?
Can we all say
I cannot win.
That is correct.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC, a proud member of the Beautiful Game Network, and brought to you by Roughneck Scars and Icarus FC. Whew. It's been that type of week, and we're off to the races, stumbling out of the gates. I'm your host, Phil Bakke, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mika Burrell. Mika, how are we existing at this moment?
Yeah, existing is a good way to put it, man. It's Thursday night as we're recording this, and this week has felt simultaneously like 100 years long and like a blink at the same time, because I'm like, no, like there's another locomotive match like on the horizon. Help me. Like, and you know, it's because we don't always have like the midweek fixtures, so that certainly plays a part, but it's just like, it's a lot. Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot of emotions at the moment, and I'd prefer to just not do that.
Hear you, man.
Well, yeah, as you said, I mean, Locomotive played in the U.S. Open Cup, and we obviously are here to chat whatever that was that we watched out in Fresno. And then we're also here to look ahead to another California matchup against Monterey Bay. But before we get into that, just to talk about some admin, we are Seriously Loco. So if you are finding us for the first time, welcome. It's normally not this bleak in here, so I promise stick around. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us by searching Seriously Loco, Seriously_Loco on Instagram. And we're also on all the major podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. And we also have a Patreon, if you're so inclined, patreon.com/Seriously Loco. That's without the E's. For whatever E's and I's and O's and U's, it's SRSLY. So
Seriously
Loco. We also, for those who joined, thanks to everyone who joined our live stream on Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook. Me and Mika tried desperately to keep our wits about us for 90 minutes as we watched this match against CV Fuego. And Mika, I mean, it was maybe the lone bright spot of this match. The people who were hanging around and jumping in the live stream and making it somewhat bearable to be able to kind of laugh our way through it.
For sure, yeah. The live stream was a lot of fun. Wish we could have been talking about goals and things of that nature. Ones we score, not ones we concede, clearly. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of good banter in there. A lot of people joined us that are not Locomotive fans, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a lot of dead air between the both of us. a lot of just like shock, which is not conducive to streaming, obviously. Like, we should be speaking about what we're seeing, but I'm still not quite sure I know what we saw or understood it fully.
Yeah, I mean, we may as well dive in to the match review. The Seriously Loco match review. Central Valley Fuego 4, El Paso Locomotive 1 in the US Open Cup. It doesn't even sound like a sentence that should exist, but yet here we are. This is a weird one, Mika, for a number of reasons, but it's particularly weird given that we lost by a 3-goal margin in our first ever Open Cup game, and I would say, while it felt not great, I definitely didn't feel what I felt the other night, which was a sort of deep existential dread about the team and where we are actually at, because we've been, well, not super positive, but we've been maybe optimistic about the direction of the team up till now. The other night, that really felt a long ways away.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to think back to the loss to Forward Madison as well in our, maiden game in this competition, a storied competition that I'm happy is returned after quite a layoff due to COVID. So I wish we could have gone further in it, but it wasn't to be, obviously. Credit to Central Valley Fuego. I thought that they were really good. They were very ruthless with some of the mistakes that we made, and we'll get more into that. But yeah, I can definitely see how like comparing the two times we've played in this competition, it just doesn't hit the same, even though the results were both negative. Because in that match against Forward Madison, the lineup that we played, I felt like there was definitely like a tacit admission that this is not the priority.
Yeah.
We played a significantly weakened squad. Maybe not significantly, but not the starters, not the league starters. I know Jermaine Porter. That always comes to my mind. That was like the one time that he played for us. So yeah, just it hits different because we came out with a strong 11 against Central Valley Fuego, and I think you can forgive us for thinking we should have gotten more out of this game.
I think it's one of those things where we definitely rotated, and with a game 48 hours prior, I think that's expected. But
sure.
Yeah, the names in there, we knew that Beigel was we knew Beigel was likely to come in for the cup. And I think we actually, on the show, for anyone keeping track, I think we actually accurately predicted at least the back four, and a couple of the up front. We did not correctly predict Lucho Solignac at central midfield. But yeah, Payaris, Aguiluz, John Brown has started for us this season, although I think we've seen that Brockbank is maybe ahead of him in the pecking order just slightly. Borelli has, been at the club a long time. Calvillo's at a full international. Chapa, we know what he can do on a good day. Francois is absolutely meant to be a starter in that front three. Josue Aron Gomez, top goal scorer in club history, I think, still, by like 1 goal now. And Zacharias, who we've seen to good effect this season. So although this team hasn't played together, this team felt like it was good enough to get the job done, and oh, how we were wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to start with the very first goal because it's just like the worst kind of deja vu with the long ball, over the top into that space in the wide areas, and Beigel is right on the edge of his area, like he's like it's where you would stand if you're in the wall for a really close free kick. Like I just don't know what he's doing there. in that situation, right? Because you have to read that ball. It's coming over the top. I guess Fuego did their homework. You know, it's silly at this point. Like it really is. Like that's inexcusable to get chipped like that. And fair play to the player that scored the goal because it's very. I mean, that's very technical.
Yeah.
You know, to chip it like that and have it land exactly where you want it. You know, that's not that easy to do, even though it looks easy. But yeah, just more of the same, and it only got worse from there.
It got considerably worse, and not that long later. As you said, I mean, the first goal is comical, and it's really the third goal of that type that we've conceded this season. We've conceded the one against United, the one against Lights had a similar type of goal, and now with a different keeper, it was a similar result with Bijev's opener. So I think super frustrating. I do think I shy away from saying that this is like a system thing, because in each of these cases, the system does not demand that the keeper is standing in the corner of the box, like for absolutely like making no impact on the play. Like the system cannot be calling for that. Like these are individual errors in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for sure they are individual errors again, because we know that, yes, you're having a system beaten into your head, what have you, but you still have some professional discretion, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a goalkeeper, where it's like at the end of the day, you have to keep the ball out of your net. Like that sounds simple because it is. And in that case, I think, it is an error. You have to, I don't know what it is if Beigel doesn't anticipate, is it like a depth perception issue? Because we can talk about how the dimensions of the pitch were insane to where crosses were ending up in places where you might not expect, and long balls, but still this is an experienced player, and you just want better in that situation.
The second goal is a banger. No two ways about it. Nathan Smith hits the goal of probably his entire career. I don't know that he could recreate that given 1,000 more opportunities. It flies right in the corner, and just kind of emphasized the fact that I think the first two goals kind of encapsulate this Locomotive season so far, where it's are we making mistakes? Absolutely. Are we also a little bit unlucky and giving up some worldies at the same time? Also yes. Everything is going in against us. Every single shot, it feels is finding the back of the net. And that one is just it's not a great headed clearance, don't get me wrong, and headers back into that area are really dangerous to be hit back in by someone running onto it, but still to put it into the upper 90, with that level of violence, as Nathan Smith did, it's not easy to pull that off. Oftentimes those, go sailing over the crossbar. He got the technique just right. And then it was 2-0.
Yeah, it was always rising, as they say. No, you're absolutely right. Both goals are a microcosm of our season of one, just absolutely killing ourselves with the mistakes, and two, fucking hell, can anything go in our favor? Can we get some bounces? Because that's exactly how that feels. And I don't know. You could make an argument someone should be closing him down, whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't know that there's too much you can do.
Yeah.
About a ball that's struck as sweetly as that one was. So fair play to him. Violence was the name of the game for Nathan Smith on the night. So, it checks out.
Was he? Yeah, he ends the game not booked, which is, I guess, another microcosm of this game in particular is Locomotive end the game with 6 yellows and a red, and only 2 yellows for Fuego. And that is despite the fouls being 17 fouls given against Locomotive, 14 fouls given against Fuego. But yeah, so only 3 less fouls, but 4 less yellows, which feels harsh on us.
Yeah, the math ain't mathin'. Yeah, countless yellow cards, the red card for John Brown. Yeah, this is what's really a shame about the officiating on the night, and I'm going to put this up front. It is not the reason why we lost.
Right.
Period, point blank. It's almost a separate issue of, like, how is this okay in 2022?
Yeah.
In the one of the oldest running cup competitions in the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, especially after like the layoff that we weren't allowed to watch Open Cup because of COVID, I would have liked better. It seemed like at a certain point the referee knew the game is lost, so the rules are not as important, and that is not how it works.
Yeah.
Not how it works at all.
Yeah.
And we're not a dirty team either, so to have 6 yellows is like absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
And it just felt like the referee was afraid of things getting out of control, especially, he had Fuego players in his ear for much of the night. So
Yeah.
I think he folded to that, and we deserve better, I think.
Yeah.
Despite, like I said, it not really making a difference in the overall result.
Yeah. If I could say the impact that it had, I would say that mentally we started to unravel because I think we started to feel really hard done by. At certain points, like I think they felt like, man, everything is against us tonight. And so they started to kind of like lash out. There were a couple of like comings together with Fuego, which in those situations, the thing that made me chuckle is the fact that like whenever there's those type of brawls and people are getting shoved, brawl, I use brawl extremely lightly, but whenever those types of, the like after the whistle stuff and people get shoved, the referees always take the main aggressor from the one team and the main aggressor from the other team and book both of them. In this case, he only books Josue Aron Gomez, who, at least from what we could see, obviously the camera work was, what it was. But from what we could see, Gomez was like the least involved in that whole like fracas. But anyways, I think those moments to me underlined like the fact that our frustration was building, and it wasn't just because like the moments in the game or the goals were going against us, but it was like we also weren't getting anything like in the run of play from the ref. Josue Aron Gomez like arguably could have had 2 penalties, I think, or was it Zacharias was the first maybe where he
that and I feel
then
like
Josue
I remember
Aron Gomez.
Diego Luna getting barged by the keeper in the box.
Oh yeah, and then Diego
and
Luna
he
should definitely
retaliated.
have Diego Luna should definitely have a penalty. So I mean, there are 3 like pretty big moments and penalty shouts that went just completely waved off. So I think that compounded what was already a lackluster night, and certainly like we're not advocating for Locomotive deserve to be bailed out by the referees. But at the same time, as Mika was saying, the game state doesn't dictate what the rules are. And that's like whether or not Locomotive deserved to earn a penalty or deserved to be back in the game. Like they did by virtue of being fouled in the box. Like that's how you earn a penalty.
Sure. I mean, them's the rules. Like, It doesn't matter that we were dog shit, because we were.
We were.
And yeah, it's very frustrating. Is it the third goal, though, from Bijev that was really like, wow, like, this may be a banter era? Was that the one where he, like, really sat down, like, 2 people without even really skilling?
Yeah. Yeah. Cuts in from the right, and the finish is great, but the fact that he was allowed to get there is just really bad because he's not in the box, so you can, well, at least initially he wasn't. So you really just, I mean, at that moment you kind of have to be in, like, I'm either taking the man or the ball or the man. Like, if I don't get the ball, like, he's not going past me, you know? And both Locomotive defenders played, like, extremely passive, and Bijev has, like, a lot of the goal to aim at as a result because he's got that whole far post area. And in that case, like, Beigel's got no chance because it's, you know, hit with whip outside of the post and back in. And yeah, it's a great finish. Don't get me wrong, but he absolutely should not get into that position so easily.
Tiny bit of mitigation. All that side of the field was penalty area, so maybe our boys felt like we can't dive in.
The penalty area actually went sideline to sideline, which seemed, non-standard. Maybe we'll say it made the swap look like a vast verdant expanse.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in all seriousness, it's a good goal, and it's just like he doesn't have to do much to get there, like you said, and that's what's really frustrating. And he just leaves a bunch of Locomotive players in his wake, and it's 3-0.
The obviously Siobhan John Brown gets sent off. The yellow, I don't know that the red card's even really worth discussing necessarily, because I think the impact on the game at that point was pretty minimal. Although the set piece that basically, like, ensued from that, Christian Chaney scores the fourth, and at that point it was 4-0, which felt like the low. But Locomotive actually had kind of a different idea, because they were gonna make us actually feel a little bit worse about this by scoring a really nice team goal in the 90th minute for a consolation. And on live stream, I think our reactions were like, well, now I'm mad.
Yeah, no, I was pissed off for sure. Like, how y'all just gonna, like, one touch pass it around the area and have Calvillo arrive late and rifle it home? Like, I hate you.
Oh, now
this
we're playing.
This is toxic.
Oh, now we're playing. Now I see what you can do.
Yeah. No, really good goal, and you just wonder, like, why can't we do that more?
Yeah. This is the ex that forgot your birthday, but bought you a trip to, like, Cancun for Christmas. It's like, okay, this is nice. This is great. But you forgot my fucking birthday. Like, we're not just cool because you scored this great goal.
Exactly. Yeah. So annoying. And then of course, Christian Chaney gets one, his third in two.
Yeah.
Ever. 2 games ever for Fuego.
Yeah.
So the hometown boys sends the pretty ruckus crowd, I have to say.
Yeah.
Home happy. Shout out to all the people that showed up, because it was one of the better atmospheres I've seen in Open Cup this season so far. So
yeah, the pitch was crazy, but credit to Fuego fans, the stands were packed, and that's what I mean. Yeah. You do love to see that in the Open Cup. I mean, if nothing else positive we can take from this game, at least, like, there was interest in it.
Mm-hmm. And I think Diego had some, like, family or friends in the stands, maybe even Calvillo did. So I mean, it was a bit of a homecoming for some of the boys. You would hope that they would show out a bit more for it, but that's neither here nor there now.
It truly is. So that brings our all-time record. You looked up an interesting stat. Our all-time record against California teams, balanced as all things should be.
Balanced, but it, like, lately feels real bad, man. And actually, this should probably have I think it's right. So we're 8 wins, 2 draws, 8 losses. But some of these losses are like heart piercing, like LA Galaxy to 5-0.
Yeah.
Oakland Roots in the playoffs sent home in the first round. The way we opened the season, Sacramento Republic, a team that we usually have a good record against, lose to them, and then now losing to Fuego, who again are Phoenix team of Fresno, and had played their second ever competitive match against us, who have been, we're in season 4 now, so it's just embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just not been a fun time to be a Locomotive fan, unfortunately. This game highlighted, or I guess almost like headlined, a rough week in the USL, like in the US Open Cup for USL Championship sides. Really rough record against lower league opposition, and basically the only USL Championship sides that advanced against, with the exception of 2. I think USL League 1 went 5-2 against championship sides.
I mean, if that's not a advertisement for Pro Rel, I don't know what is. I mean, it's, I'm being half facetious there. It is a cup competition and it's pretty random at times, but
Yeah.
Fair play to a lot of these League 1 sides have done very, very well.
And as we speak, I normally don't bring up much of like what's happening, but a straight up like semi-pro or amateur team is, I think they're beating Birmingham Legion fairly handily at the moment. So USL Championship is in the mud, as they say. Oh, wait. No, never mind. FOTMob is lying to me.
I think Memphis actually lost Chattanooga from Nisa.
FOTMob has actually put all 3 of these goals for the wrong team. Birmingham Legion is fine.
Well, now I'm like, did Memphis, was that a lie? No, I think that
was
happened.
true, yeah. That was true.
Yeah, just not great for championship. But I think ours is, unfortunately, like the most embarrassing because we got throttled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, there's this weird in between. I think a lot of championship sides rotated. Like, and I'm not to say, again, not really an excuse for Locomotive because the players that were out there absolutely should have been able to get the job done. But I think that's where, like, maybe the USL Championships, like, loss percentage or whatever in this round might be driven by the fact that teams are kind of writing off the cup to an extent, whereas League 1 teams are going to play full strength. They've only played 1 game up till now. Like, they're going to play a full strength team, meanwhile, like, Locomotive's played,
yeah,
like 4 league games. 48 hours later, they play their 5th game of the season, and then they have another game on Saturday. So, again, not excuse for the loss or the nature of the loss, really. I think we could have expected it to be much better, regardless of the personnel, but I think it might lend itself to, like, why are USL Championships teams, like, just going out to seemingly inferior opposition? And I think it's because they're rotating, but
yeah.
Well, Mika, is this the banter era? Are we entering the banter era of El Paso Locomotive?
Time will tell, right? Time will tell. But I don't know. I mean, surely if it continues, and there's no team on earth that's not gone through a banter era, and I'm not trying to, like, normalize that by any means, but there is that fear, I think, creeping in the back of some minds around the club, like, what is this?
Yeah.
So no, I don't know. Like, for sure, time will tell, but right now it doesn't feel great, right?
Yeah. the optimism that we had, from certain aspects of the team's play around other matches, wasn't in this one. So there's no chat about about really. I mean, it was inexcusable in many ways from the team, and I can only hope that as we head into Monterey Bay over the weekend, we'll have the opportunity to rebound. But we'll take a quick break, and then we can dive into our preview of the match on Saturday against Monterey Bay FC. The Seriously Loco match preview. Welcome back to Seriously Loco. As we dive into our preview of our game on Saturday against Monterey Bay, Mika, you took a different tack this week. We normally have our ask for listener questions, and you, the listeners, send in your thoughts, your comments, your questions for us. You kind of flipped the script on them this week, Mika.
Yeah, I mean, I still did our call for questions because I always like to see the kind of things that y'all come up with. But I also asked a question. We asked a question as well, and let me navigate to it to see what exactly I said. So we had asked, what would be an acceptable result this Saturday versus Monterey Bay FC? Do you take a draw, or is it 3 points or bust? And we got a lot of responses, and they were all across the shop. So
yeah.
I thought it would be an interesting thought experiment, and so it proved.
Yeah, we got a pretty good spread here. So we're gonna run through some of the tweets that we got in terms of who was asking for a win, draw, or
and three camps or teams emerged.
Yeah, three full camps are out here. So the first group is Team 3 Points, must win. That was the vibe from this first group. So we had responses from @OneStarGalileo on Twitter said, at this point, 3 points is a must. It is time to turn this around for the morale of the team and fans. @NickGo11 said, I would like to be patient and say I would be okay with a draw and an improved defensive effort. I don't think I can, though. Expansion side at home, need the 3 points. # trust the process. And @Jen of Eve she said 3 points a must, unless they want my picture poster board thing back to occupy a seat.
Fair
an interesting spread there, but I mean, Team 3 Points, this view, not surprising, that this has started to emerge. I mean, the at the end of the day, the fans are just looking for getting one over the line, turning some of these performances into something tangible points wise.
For sure, man. We got to get on the board. I don't blame anyone at all who's calling for a win. And, @NickGo11, he made the most interesting point, which is it's an expansion side at home. You should be able to handle that, with ease, or at least handle that, relatively okay. And there's a lot of things going against Monterey, chiefly that they are playing all their games on the road until May.
Yeah.
Because Cardinale Stadium is not ready yet. So, I mean, they've got a lot to deal with as far as the travel and doing that. And they've had some mixed results, but I think that's to be expected from an expansion side. But, the expectation for us would or should be to win at home in front of our fans. So, Team 3 Points, I totally understand where they're coming from.
The Team 3 Points will be looking at Monterey Bay's form and saying we should probably get this over the line. Monterey Bay also victims in the second round of the U.S. Open Cup at the hands of Bay Cities FC, a expansion team in Niza.
Oh wow, okay.
Monterey Bay do already, though, have a win on the season over Oakland Roots. So they've lost to Sac Republic, Switchbacks, Phoenix Rising. But they do have a win. So they are 3 points better off than us at the moment. So I get Team 3 Points for sure.
Yeah. So we had this other team emerge, which I don't know. Maybe I guess I'll say which team I'm part of at the end, but I call this team Dear God, just play better. And these are our philosophers, our intellectuals. This is, this vibe. These fans. At Mark Ponce 2 on Twitter, he said, "This Saturday, I feel like a clean sheet is necessary. Monterey Bay isn't exactly a high-powered offense, and a clean sheet can give our players some confidence in the system." At L Durbin, Larry Durbin, former, eighth notch president, he says, "Honestly, a winning result is an obvious answer, but win, lose, or draw, I would like to see corrections/adjustments to the issues the team has. It's frustrating losing the way we have." I just thought that these types of takes were really interesting because there are people out there that think of the game as more than just results, and I think that that's really interesting because yeah, playing better and liking what you see is a big part of why we all watch this sport, right? And watch Locomotive. So, I just thought these were some pretty interesting ones. And there were other ones, but we just had to kind of pick from the bunch because you guys were awesome with how many responses we got. But yeah, what do you make of some of the folks that are like, you know what, like whatever the result is, we just need something cohesive, that makes sense, looks good, and functions.
Yeah, I think these are pretty measured. I like the more sensible approach maybe. But I get, this is an emotional game, so sometimes it's tough to remove that from the whole process. But for me, this is the group where they're asking for, like, we've seen some of the glimpses, we've seen halves that have resembled like what we should be doing. Let's put, as you said, a cohesive, just complete 90 minutes together. And I think honestly, this team to me lands in the win camp because if we put a complete 90 minutes together against Monterey Bay, we will win. Like, there is not like if we play our best 90 minutes, we will win this game. Like, will we do that is the question. So I think this team is low key in the win column also because if what they're asking for happens, we will win the game.
Fair enough. And we'll get into it towards the end, like kind of who Monterey Bay is as a team and how we can get at them. But yeah, I think that's totally fair.
So another camp that emerged, or the final camp that emerged, is team draw is fine. And this was a little surprising, to be honest, that there was this, because I was for sure thinking that we were just going to get mention after mention of like, just win, baby, win. And instead we did get a couple of responses in the draw is fine camp. So at Fernie Elias on Twitter said, "I think a draw is acceptable at this point. Even if the draw is 0-0, we know we can score, but it would show that the defense is clicking." And at Hit Up Raul on Twitter, which is a nice little sentence, like he's doing some self-promo, like in the way that we've announced. Hit Up Raul on Twitter, man. That's at Hit Up Raul on Twitter.
That does flow.
It's still early in the season, so I don't mind a draw. I think Fernie's is really interesting because, well, really both of them, because they're referencing when it's happening in the season. But I think Fernie's is really interesting because we have demonstrated the goal scoring.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why 0-0 I think would be, I don't want to say like refreshing, but like definitely a change of pace, because in these losses, like it's been chaos.
Yeah.
Like just all over the shop.
Yeah.
And I think in that way, like a 0-0, I could see what Fernie's getting at is like, this might provide some respite so we can like see what the hell is going on here. And a clean sheet would do Evan Newton a world of good.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And the team.
Yeah.
I think that is a really good point that Fernie makes. And hit up Raul, like, a man of few words, but he said what he said. It's still early in the season, so I don't mind a draw. Like, the pragmatists are kind of in this camp, and I fucks with it.
Well, I guess all that being said, where do you find yourself? Which of these camps are you aligning with?
Yeah, so if you read my, kind of rambly piece on Patreon this week, I'm really looking for a complete 90 minutes from this Locomotive side. I don't think we've seen that yet. I think we've seen good first halves. I think we've seen good second halves. I think we've seen good sequences. Even in Fuego, that goal is a really nice sequence.
Truly.
But we can extrapolate that over a half, much less 90 minutes. So I think I'm kind of in, team dear God, just play better. Because I think if we put in a comprehensive performance, then you would think the law of averages, the result will follow.
Yeah.
Right? It's not always that way. We know that. In fact, a lot of the times it's not that way. Soccer is one of those sports where you can dominate and not get what you deserve. But I think at this point, if we can at least put it all together and it makes sense to the fans who are watching this, then that will stand the team in good stead. And I think that would take a little bit of pressure off. And then, like I said, hopefully the result would follow from that. So I think that's kind of where I am. I would love 3 points. Don't get me wrong. It's just I'm trying not to set myself up for disappointment,
Yeah.
Because to be honest, in speaking with people kind of closer to the team, the idea from what I can gather is that we really want to be competitive in the summer. Not that we don't want to be competitive right now. I probably worded that wrong, but the idea or the thinking is that's how much time it'll take for things to really gel. So obviously that remains to be seen, but I think I just want to see a comprehensive performance from the boys. But what about you, Phil? I'm curious because I can't read where you might fall on this.
So here's the thing. I want desperately to be in team dear God, just play better. And I want to take this really measured approach of clean sheet for my logical brain says clean sheet first and then the rest. Focus should be keeping a clean sheet. The defense executing and operating as it is meant to.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot commit to that. I can't be sensible enough to say I'd be happy at 0-0 because I would be fuming at 0-0. I'll be hopping, man.
Okay.
If we keep a clean sheet and we don't win against Monterey Bay, that will actually make me furious, I think. So and that is not against anyone in that camp because you guys you're being logical. You're right. You guys are right. You're correct. That is the right way to think. But this game, to me, I just feel we've got to get 3 points on the board because I
hear ya. Yeah.
Them at home, we know that they're not a great side. And if we still, I know it's still early, but if we have the ambitions that we have, this is a game that if we look back at the end of the season and we're right on the edge of the playoffs or right on the edge of whatever, a higher seed or something like that, I know I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But if that's the case at the end of the season, we would absolutely look back on this game and be like, man, missed opportunity. Because
that is very true. Yeah.
I just that's my take. Now, as I said, everybody who says just play better and put together a comprehensive 90 minutes, you guys are correct and logical. And I wish I was with I wish I could be with you because you guys, you get it. You're able to separate the emotion and yeah. And I just feel I feel like this game I'll be deeply troubled if we don't get a win.
No, I mean you've convinced me. I guess I'm not as set in my convictions as I thought. And the people that are called for 3 points, like they make a lot of salient points. You know, it's again expansion side at home, like you said, Phil. Not a great team. And I guess let's talk about Monterey Bay because there's a lot of bits and bobs going on here. I mean, they're coached by the very experienced Frank Yallop,
Yes.
two-time MLS Cup champion with San Jose Earthquakes, I believe. Made over 300 appearances for Ipswich Town as a player. So, like, a football man
Yep.
through and through. So that's something that we just simply don't have. This is John Hutchinson's first, head coaching position going up against a veteran. I think that a lot of that will inform this game is like who's going to outcoach who, right? And you would think the guy with bags of experience might do. So,
Sure.
As a team, though, I did do a little tiny bit of scouting, and Monterey, they kind of remind me of us in a lot of ways, which is like horrifying to say because again, like they are brand new to the league. But in terms of like the long balls, they have trouble dealing with them. They have trouble dealing with them, and they have trouble dealing with, dealing with pace when those gaps open up. They've given up 3 penalties. So
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah.
But the thing about them that I will say is really interesting is that they are very scary on set pieces. And that's, due in part to Chase Andrew Boone, who's got 3 goals in 4 appearances, super dangerous in the air, and that's a threat. So I don't know if you picked up on any of that, but I mean, Monterey Bay are kind of a mixed bag here in terms of brand new, but like a lot of experience, in the technical area, some really like interesting set piece dynamism, but a little bit unlucky and also kind of naive defensively.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, Chase Boone is off to a flyer in terms of goal scoring. In a lot of ways, he joined from Loyal, and he's kind of the youngest of the main striking pieces because a lot of their attackers, they went with experience. Christian Valesky, who many will remember, played for Switchbacks. He got a stint in like Iceland or something like that, that he returned from.
Hell.
He's 29. Chris Cortez, who joined from Miami, 33. Simon Dawkins, who is, he actually joined having last played for Ipswich. He's 34. So I think like Chase Boone has established himself pretty quickly as kind of like the guy. I do think that these guys can be gotten at. And I think the biggest, as you said, you bring up the set pieces for as rough as our defense has been this season, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Fuego game was the first time that we actually conceded from set pieces.
I think that's right. I think most
we've been hit on the break so many times. I'm like, that's the only goals we concede. Now, I'm not saying that that's good, but I am saying that like it seems like our set piece defense is actually decent, for the most part, because it's not like we've been shipping goals there. So hopefully that stays the case. And I mean, at the end of the day, the reality here for Monterey Bay is Yallop will have watched every goal, every dangerous moment that we've conceded, and he'll know exactly what he wants to go do, which is he's going to try to stay very compact and then hit the ball over the top, because that is absolutely our weakness. So I think this game, if I can be so bold, I think it literally hinges on whether or not we score first.
Wow. Which is a lot of pressure in a lot of ways.
Because I think the longer it goes...
It shouldn't be, but yeah.
The longer it goes with Monterey Bay being able to sit back and absorb pressure and, play for the draw, the longer it gives us that lights type of situation where suddenly like we could be having a problem, because we're going to have a lot of the ball. They're going to be able to they're going to sit back and try to absorb pressure. If we get the goal, it at least draws them out or forces them to play like a little bit and chase the game a little bit. So hopefully that leads to something, although we've often, I guess, been the architects of our own destruction in that way, when we have the lead. So yeah, it's an interesting problem.
We had a comment that I thought was really interesting in our polling about, what we expect for a result. El Balderrama 22 was responding to someone else who called for 3 points, and she said, agreed, it needs to be a full 3 points. I'm thinking there needs to be a change in formation that will allow for a solid defense, creative midfielders, and solid strikers. What do you make of this? Because I think this was the only one who talked about changing formation. I think someone else had talked about changing the system and the formation, but this was the first one I saw, and I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's necessary or even possible or advisable?
I think, man, the system, I guess the thing that I look at when I'm looking at John's system is the fact that, or any system really, like one of the things that has made the teams that have been impressive or like the teams that look good early in this USL season, as far as I'm concerned, have been the teams that are executing their system well and sticking to their like principles. I've been like watching Detroit City, and they play the same, basically like 3-5-2. They play it every single game, every single week. They don't change. They don't sway from it. And I'm not saying that they're like world beaters or anything like that, but I think in order for us to get to a level of comfort like in this season, I don't think we can change it. Like, I think this is the plan, and I really think we have to continue, like, and it's been painful so far, like, don't get me wrong, but I do think we have to work through it and get to a point where this system functions the way that it's meant to.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. What I will say about just formation is I really like the idea of Manny Sinupe, Francois running at this team, because again, like from watching them, they seem to have that same kind of issue where the fullbacks will bomb on, but they have not got control of the ball that will allow them to deal with that space because it turns over so quickly. And they seem to struggle with that and leave those gaps. So for just this match, I'd be okay with still like having our front three.
Yeah.
And you know, actually, I think our next question is about starting 11. So do we want to go there and just kind of flesh that out?
Yeah, absolutely.
So eBow27, Eric on Twitter, he said, what starting 11 would you like to see? I think my only must starts are Fox, Sinupe, Dylan Mahrez, and Luna.
Yeah, I think Eric's nailed it to an extent. I think these have been probably by a decent distance our best players. And in some cases, like the lone bright spots of certain of our performances. I think it's getting to a point in an attacking sense where Manny Sinupe is the first name on the team sheet almost, because he's been absolutely unbelievable. Amazing. The pair of Dylan and Diego is good, and I do really like it, and I think they absolutely should be in there. And Foxy has been kind of the only consistent defender that we've had so far. There's maybe a shout, although this game did his stock a little bit of damage. This last game did his stock a little bit of damage for Ander Aguiluz, who up until this point had not really been the problem, but he wasn't great. Well, let me say that he wasn't very good against Fuego. And so I do think that Eric's on point with these. I think the tough part about it is that we don't have the options in the 6 that allow us to. I mean, we basically are making like a binary choice between, is Richie going to be there or is Eric Calvillo going to be there? And either way, you're making a choice between Richie, who obviously like very skilled at playing in that position, but physically we can see the wear and tear. Like we can see that he's slowing down a little bit, and it's nothing against Richie. It is what it is. Like we're human beings. So it's that or Eric, who I don't think that's his best position. Like I don't think he's a 6.
He's a box to box player.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
So anyways, I think Eric's got the must starts nailed on. I think the tough part is there are certain positions where we're kind of making like a this or that choice, and we don't really have a ton of like extra options like further down the pecking order.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess we can kind of go through it. I mean, we'd both expect, I'm assuming we expect to see Evan Newton return in goal, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, he starts.
Across the back line, I guess first and foremost, I think, well, it's important to note that Siobhan John Brown's red card will only apply in US Open Cup matches and not in the league. But do you think it's Harry Brockbank back in the right back spot, or did he start? I forget. Did he start against Fuego? Who started? It was him. No, John
right?
Brown started against Fuego, and Brockbank started against Loyal.
Okay, well, I think Brockbank will start because it wouldn't make any sense to take him out, as he's got a hot hand in front of goal. So
yeah,
that's nice. So I think he'll start at right back. Yeah.
Center back pairing.
I think it will be Boehner and Yuma. I don't know why that is, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, it was interesting because I think Payares looked like a guy who hasn't played in 4 games.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That was the vibe. Like it looked like a guy returning from injury for sure.
Yeah. Who's the pairing for you?
It's tough. I don't know. In terms of
Boehner's
like,
been pretty good,
Boehner
like
has-
one-on-one.
Boehner has
like,
been
not bad.
He has been pretty good. I do think Yuma probably starts.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something about, I think John is probably looking for the big personalities in the locker room to step up and like take some responsibility like on the field as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the game I think like in my head the logic is trying to tell me that Ander and Yuma wouldn't play together in an ideal world, because they're kind of like not similar in style, but their traits, I guess, like their defining traits are kind of the same, like being converted midfielders.
Yeah, they're both kind of slight.
Yeah.
To be fair. Yeah.
So maybe it is Boehner back there. I think Payares being hauled off at halftime, like that told me something about like where Johnson, and maybe that was a planned thing where they're like, hey, we're going to get you 45 because you're getting fit. And it just so happened to coincide with us shitting the bed in the Open Cup. But like, But yeah, so I think it will be. I think you're probably onto something with Banner and Yuma there, and I think Aguiluz would be a little unlucky to miss out. But that's that. Fox at left back, and then we talked about Diego and Dylan in midfield as the most likely pairing. So who plays in the 6 for you?
I think it's Richie. Going off of your hypothesis about the big voices in the dressing room, I think he's certainly one of them. He's one of our captains, so I think he gets on the pitch for this one.
Yeah, agreed. And then front three, we've seen kind of what the first choice front three is in an ideal situation. We still think that Sebastian Velasquez, he's got a little bit of a road back still. It seems not quite. He wasn't ready to travel, so I guess we'll kind of play it by ear. But for the front three, are there any sort of changes or thoughts that you have on that?
I mean, Sanupe, first name on the team sheet for me.
Yeah.
Been excellent for us. At striker, I would like to see Lucho there because I thought the midfield experiment was odd.
Yeah.
He's cut a frustrated figure lately, which to me makes me wonder, like, how do you manage that, right? Because this is a player who demands a lot of himself and of his teammates, and you know, can that be harnessed in a way that's positive for the team, or is it best that he takes some time to, be away from the action? So I don't know. I think skill-wise, like, it's got to be him, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised either if it was Gomez. And then on the left, I'd actually really like to see Nick Hines.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just something about him and his willingness to do the dirty work and get into the areas that are uncomfortable and painful, where people are kicking you, and I think we need that right now. I think we need that fight, that bite, if you will. And I liked what I've seen from him so far.
Francois, I think we talked about it. Something looks off. Like, I don't know if he's been playing with like a little bit of an injury, or and not anything like debilitating, but maybe he's playing through some pain. Maybe he's like the sharp Cristiano that we saw in game 1 against Sacramento Republic, and even a little bit against United, seems like a long way away. We haven't really seen a good outing from him since pretty early in the season.
Yeah, and I mean, even with in those better outings, the first touch was just letting him down a little bit. So yeah, I think maybe he's a little bit bereft of confidence at the moment, or maybe nursing an injury, like you said. So yeah, that also kind of makes me lean towards the Jamaican. Yeah.
Let Francois come into a game, tired legs, like with the defenders, maybe gives him a little bit more of something. But yeah, we haven't really seen, I mean, not only have we not seen the best, I don't think we've seen like a good, consistent attacking performance from Cristiano yet, unfortunately. I think that player is still in there though, for sure. I mean, the numbers don't lie from last season, but definitely still finding his feet as a Locomotive player. And that leaves us with the question now to close things out, which is to predict what will happen in this match. How are we feeling about whether Locomotive, what's the score line? Who's scoring? What are your vibes for Monterey Bay?
Yeah, listen, this Monterey Bay side scored 2 against Phoenix on opening night in Phoenix's castle. So I'm not predicting a clean sheet. However, I want to, more than predict, I want to manifest 3 points for us. So I'm going to go 2-1 Locomotive. Let's start the season like Let's stop taking the piss and just get 3 points on the board. Let's be professional. Let's do it. They're beatable. People have shown them that. They'll score, but they're beatable. So I'm manifesting 2 points. Or 3 points. I'm not saying that I'm predicting it. I'm wishing it into existence, Phil, and you can't stop me.
And wow, okay. So I mean, we got to be optimistic at some point, like, because otherwise we've got nothing to cling to.
Which and it's foolish because I mean, if you look at the recent evidence, like, there's nothing to say that that's gonna happen. But we gotta go with it.
So 3-1.
You were saying 3-1.
3-1.
Wow.
I'm manifesting.
3-1 Monterey Bay. No, I'm just playing.
Oh no.
3-1 Locomotive, to be clear.
3-1
right?
Locomotive. Yeah, I think I think it's dumb not to pick him at this point. Sanupe, I think, gets on the score sheet in any win because everything positive in an attacking sense seems to flow through him at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems irresponsible not to pick him to score.
Oh, I didn't pick a goal scorer, did I? I think Diego Luna has to get off the mark as well. Has he scored yet? No, right?
No, he came really, really close in the opener, dragged a shot wide, and then hit the post against United. He's come really close a couple of times.
Yeah, he's always a threat, so
yeah,
I hope he can be ruthless against a team that we really should be taking the game to. So
yeah,
I'll go with Diego.
It'll be a question of confidence, I think, on Saturday night. Huge one for Locomotive fans, for the club, for the players, because obviously throughout this, I think, like, the thing that we do try to ground ourselves in the fact that, like, hey, the players are feeling this too. Like, they're professional athletes. Like, they do not want to lose, just as the fans do. So I do try to remind myself sometimes that, like, they are also going through it at the moment. And not to say that writes off any responsibility, because they'll definitely hold themselves accountable. But yeah, it just has to be better. And I'm looking forward to hopefully we see a rebound of a significant level, and hopefully some of the numbers that we've seen in the early USL Championship season manifest in a full 90 minutes of actually meeting our statistical outcomes. But yeah, it will be an interesting watch. Mika, are you gonna be in the box for this one?
I will be covering it and doing my best not to scream in the press box.
It's so tough. Like, there's no neutrality up there. Like, there's an air of there's an air
facade,
of professional,
but it's very thin.
Yeah, a thin facade of professionalism.
And yourself, you'll be watching?
I will be watching from the studio here. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to watch this one. It's obviously, like, this is kind of, I don't know, like, I've attached a lot of importance to this game, so I've just got a lot riding, like, emotionally on
you
this.
caught me out with that. You really did.
I'm like,
you really did.
And
we're good friends. We've been good friends for a couple years now, but I was like, okay, I get it though.
We are down catastrophically. Like, we're down. It
horrendous.
Just absolutely like unforgivably down. And yeah, I think everybody, like, what I'm really trying to avoid, and what what I think like some of our positivities, or looking for like the bright spots this season has really been around like we've seen what happens. You're an Arsenal fan, like I'm a Liverpool fan. We've had those eras where the stadium like leaves after a 3-1 loss to West Ham, and it's just like dead silent. Like there's no boos, there's just like nothing. There's no feeling whatsoever. Fans of Manchester United, like y'all are going through that right now. And like that's why I think we're also hopeful of Locomotive turning it around, because at the end of the day, like that's what we don't want. Like we want people to feel intensely about the club, and whether it's, one way or the other, but we definitely don't want a point where everybody's feeling just like apathy or like doesn't give a shit. Because the city deserves to have a team that is worth caring about. And so I just hope that we can bounce back and avoid slipping into, the true mark of a banter era, which is when people just don't care.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and that was something brought up too in the responses was, there are certain fans in El Paso that are just if you can't capture their imagination with wins like that, it's just they're not coming. They're not coming. And there's a lot of diehards too that it doesn't matter what's going on, they will be there in the stands. Yeah. So we need a dub like real bad.
And I do back the team to be able to get it. We here are just we're trying to, as we said, manifest that energy around a dub, and we'll be doing everything we can to continue to cover and bring you guys locomotive football season. As I said at the top of the show, you can find us on all the major podcast platforms. You can find us on Twitter at Seriously Loco, Instagram at Seriously_Loco. You can find us on Facebook. We've got live watch parties of away matches on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. And we've got our Patreon that's live, patreon.com/SeriouslyLoco. Just, take the vowels out of seriously. And yeah, you can find us there. We're putting up written pieces somewhat sporadically just as the season starts and as a bunch of things happen at once. But keep an eye out for everything that goes up there, and consider supporting if you so choose. And I think with that, I think it covers everything, and we will see you guys on the other side of the Monterey Bay match on Saturday. And until then, stay loco.